If you are experiencing foundation issues, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Tom Roberts from the Greater Coosa Valley Chamber of Commerce, trying to help you get a good grasp on what's going on in and around the Greater Coosa Valley over the next little bit. We've got a huge event, an historic event at a historic location coming up this weekend. We've got the Camoga Gristmill. The Gristmill Park also includes another facility on the National Historic Registry, and that's the Covered Bridge. And we're going to get overrun as the Southern troops from the Confederacy try to hold on to the gristmill itself in a reenactment from the Company F, 31st Alabama Infantry. And it's a big, big deal down at the Camoga Gristmill Park this weekend, the 15th and the 16th. Both days they'll be opening the gates at 9 o'clock so you can tour the encampments and get a look at the troops and all the historic memorabilia they bring along with them. Then at 2 o'clock, the bullets and the cannonballs start flying. Got a big howitzer out there. So it's going to be a fun time. There is a $3 charge, but that's the normal admission to the park itself, and all the proceeds from that are going to be going to support continuing maintenance and renovation of Camoga Gristmill Park. And I think that's a fitting event to kind of segue into our guest today, a longtime friend and someone who is in his writing using an awful lot of history. Cabot Barden, welcome to the show this morning.
Good to be here.
Well, I'm going to flash back to about almost 10 years ago. I moved back to the Sylacauga area, and an old friend stopped by. Life wasn't going so well financially, but you were on the road to doing something big, and you brought by the first rendition of It's the Bass Player, which was the first book in what's turned out to be a long series. You want to take us back to what got you started on that road of writing?
Well, I'm a big fan of Clive Cussler, who's written, 50, 60 number one bestsellers. Mm-hmm. And in '89, when you were on the radio, Frank Lister and I wrote a song for Clive about his book or something, and presented it to him in Mobile. And I got to meet him and talk to him, and I asked him while I was sitting there, I had never thought about writing a book seriously, and I asked him, I said, if I was going to write a book, what would I write about? He said, write what you know. So I wrote that first book in 2009 because I was unemployed and had nothing to do. And finished that up, and just off of memories from playing in a band with Frank and Charlie Gamble. And so that one did so well, I said, well, maybe I better write a sequel. So I did that, and the sequel came out. It did well. So I wrote a third on that same subject called Dynamite Runs in the Family, which is kind of, the first of it's based on how my mom and dad met in Savannah, and her little saying she always said was, dynamite runs in the family, or dynamite comes in small packages and so do I. It's what she used to tell me.
I remember her well, and dynamite is an apt description.
Yeah. And that started the book writing, and so that was 12 books ago. Well, if you count the ones I'm working on, 14 books ago, because I'm working on 2 more. My newest one that just came out, is published now, is called the Cherokee Kid series. You've got it right there. Treasure of Dead Man's Past. That's the first in the series.
There we go. Well, I keep moving, and there we go.
There you
go. we got to stay a step ahead of Robert in there if we can.
And now I'm working on a sequel to that one, which is called The Trouble Magnet. I got that name from John Welch, who's the main character. He's a Cherokee Indian. The only Cherokee Indian who ever served as a U.S. Marshal. But of course, nobody knew he was a Cherokee because, if you said, I'm an Indian, they would have said, no, you can't be a U.S. Marshal. So he never told him.
So you're still writing about what you know, the trouble magnet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
But his father said, wearing that badge is like being a trouble magnet. It just draws trouble to you. Of course, being a lawman, you're going to be chasing the bad guys and all that. So that's where I got the name for the second book. I'm also working on my very first science fiction novel called Ganymede Rising.
That's a new genre for you.
Yeah. It's totally different from anything I've written before. I'm just getting started with that one. It's going to be the basic theme will be kind of like a Jurassic Park on another world.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of along those lines. Everything goes awry.
So you're going to go from an old Western adventure to science fiction from another planet. That sounds interesting.
Exactly. I got my older brother and I talked about this back in the 90s about doing a book about science fiction about what would happen if one of the moons of Jupiter, which Ganymede is the largest moon in the solar system, which is an ice moon, it's covered with ice. What would happen if that was knocked out of its orbit and knocked into an orbit on the opposite side of the sun from the Earth in the same orbit?
Wow.
So, naturally, all that ice would melt, being that close to the sun, so it'd be a water world. And so naturally, all the people on Earth would be going, we need to go there instead of Mars. So
there you go.
That's the thinking behind that.
That's still a long way away, even though it's close in the same orbit. You got to go all the way to the other side of the sun to catch up with it.
Exactly, yeah.
So that sounds like it's going to be interesting. So tell us a little bit about the Cherokee Kid. 2-book series, and I know that you've got some other things going on with it, including striking up a friendship with a very familiar name.
Yep. In fact, he's one of the characters that's mentioned in the book, John T. Wayne. I asked John if I could use his name in the book, and he said, sure, Pilgrim. If you've ever met John, you swear you're talking to John Wayne Sr. He is John Wayne's grandson. John T. Wayne is his name. Of course, we all know that John Wayne's real name was Marion Michael Morrison, and of course, same here.
But when you got a moniker like John T. Wayne, you use it.
Yeah, exactly. He writes Westerns. He writes about the orphans of the Civil War, the first cowboys, first guys they ever called cowboys. When they first started calling them cowboys, it was a derogative term because they used the boys off the streets of St. Louis who were orphans for the cattle ranches back during the Civil War because all the men were going to fight in the war, so the ranchers had nobody to work for them, so they'd just go get the orphans and use them as cattle drivers.
Wow, I didn't realize that. It's nice to be able to use a lot of the, you're like me, you grew up a history buff and using a lot of the history that you know, that knowledge that's been packed away, and you're even putting some of that not so history-minded into the science fiction book. Trivial knowledge. I used it a lot in radio, useless information, and you're putting it to good use, and that's a good thing to help entertain the world. With this, but you and John T. Wayne, y'all travel a bit together and go to a lot of events, and I think that probably had a little bit to do with his influence and some of the events and activities. Y'all go to a lot of powwows and other things like that when the theme is Western, and that's some of your family background is the Native Americans, so it just seemed like a natural fit there. I was wondering when that was going to come along, and I smiled when I saw a Facebook post about it because I knew where you were going with this. I figured you'd stay a little longer and wouldn't venture off to the other side of Mars, but I'm not surprised at that either.
Yeah, with an older brother like I had, he was always into science, and he was always into space and all that. So
I always thought of him as kind of the James Dean type. That's the leather jacket is one I remember him wearing as a kid when we all grew up together at St. Andrew's Episcopal Church. But he was kind of one of those back in the background heroes of mine.
Yeah, and he was outspoken rebel.
And he was very much a good influence on you. I think that you still carry a bit of David around in you, even though he's not around anymore. That was a special kinship there, and more than just a brother. I know I see and hear the respect you have for David, and that's a big thing. So, the kid on the cover of the Cherokee Kid himself.
I wonder who that is.
I didn't have to wander very far. It was enough of a family resemblance that I understood.
That's my son Matt, my youngest son Matt. He I asked him if he would mind me doing it. Are you kidding? And so he's on the cover. The leading lady in the book is Kelly Burton, Mickey Burton's daughter. Now, Mickey is a frontierman. He'll probably be at Calmogla this weekend because he does a lot of those reenactments. We were up at Horsepins 40 a few weeks ago doing a Frontier Days up there, and they had a reenactment up there. And Mickey was over that one. He is 70 or 71, and he walks all over these mountains up here by himself, up Cheehaw, all over that. I mean, the man is incredible that he's in that good a shape to walk all that distance.
Well, you as long as you keep using it, you get to keep using it. That's one of those things. I'm not a big fan of retirement. Well, maybe I am. I've retired 3 or 4 times and just keep finding something else to get me more tired. But staying busy does help you in that front. Even if you have some limitations, staying busy helps you overcome those. And following some passions that he has for history and such as that. So I'm glad you're able to grab some like-minded people to serve as inspiration for this. And we've got to figure out a way to get some of this on at least videotape, if not film. Because I think we've got a lot to offer. I think the state of Alabama is very well known for its athletic prowess, mainly because of that shirt you're wearing there, but also a lot of singers, writers, actors and actresses, and a lot of movie studios because of the ease of doing business in Alabama and the ability to actually make money and lower the cost. Those kind of things are coming down here, and so we need to, I think, expand our ability to get things. I know I've got another project in mind, and I want to try to use some of these young kids that have the technological prowess and the creativity to see if we can start getting more and more of the things. You've produced a couple of little short features. Yeah,
John and I did a little short movie over here at Calera last year. John T. and I did. Called The Great Train Heist. It was like a 20-minute movie. We had some reenactors over there doing a Western Day thing, and they robbed the train. And of course, John and I were the U.S. Marshals who saved the day. And
imagine that.
What other role would you put John Wayne in, but as a U.S. Marshal or one of the good guys? You wouldn't see him as a villain, and you just don't do that. He's an American icon. But it was a lot of fun doing that last year. We won't be doing it again this year. We were thinking about maybe recutting it again, but I said no. The first take was pretty good, so we'll just leave it alone. John was going to be coming to Sylacauga, but at this point, I don't think he's coming. He's booked up. That man, I'm telling you, he stays on the road. He was in Wyoming, up there. Jackson Hole, isn't that?
Yeah.
He was there last week. So now he's in St. Louis.
So how do people go about reading 1 through 12 and getting ready for 13 and 14?
Well, you can go to Amazon.com, order it online, e-Kindle. You can go to Books A Million and Barnes & Noble. They can order it for you. In fact, I'll be doing a book signing at Charles II, which used to be Books A Million up there in Oxford. in July. Third weekend of July, I'll be up there.
Now, there's another event that I'd like to give a little plug for that you're going to be a part of. I hope you'll have some of your books out there as well.
Oh, yeah.
Deliverance Hope is opening up. There's Always Hope, and she's having kind of a Christian fest, if you will, having singers, songwriters, authors, some Christian mission things. That's coming up on June 22nd.
Yep.
That's a Saturday from 11 until 2. We'll have hot dogs and some cold drinks and other things like that, but a lot of music and a lot of fun things, and you're going to be a part of that lineup. We've got a bunch of folks that are going to be out and about and part of that. We invite you to come along and meet some of the truly talented people in and around our area. That's coming up as a ribbon cutting event. We're going to draw a crowd and cut a ribbon somewhere in the middle of all that, but it's just going to be a fun time, and I'm happy that you were able to sign on. You don't get to pick and grin much anymore.
No, well, actually, I'm doing a little more than I was before. We're having a jam session every Tuesday up here at the grist mill. Any musician that wants to come and sit in with us, you're more than welcome. No charge to be there. You just bring your guitar if you want to just sit and listen. We were doing that last night. We had about 4 or 5 musicians and had a great time.
That's a fun time, and it's every Tuesday night at the historic Camoga Gristmill Park. Is open mic night, and well, we better mosey on down the road and let the Cherokee Kid rest his horse a little bit. So appreciate you coming in and bringing everybody up to date on what you're up to. You move so fast with these books that it gets difficult to keep up, and I can't keep count anymore. I've got a mess of them on the mantle at the house, but I gotta catch up and get me a few new copies of some of the more recent books.
Okay, I ran out at the last 2 book signings on that one.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good
kind of
problem.
the point. And this is the latest one, The Cherokee Kid, The Treasure of Dead Man's Past from Cabot, Barden. He's local and born and raised around these parts, and I appreciate you sharing with the home folks.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.